men and me. Who knows what can happen?
I'm still straight, by the way.
Just had to throw that in. That's for you, babe.
What you gonna get? What you gonna finish your
Is
sentence?
that Italian?
I'm Pabloing right now.
I thought you had to be dead.
Is that the weirdest thing you've eaten? No.
Because I was like, Kurt's Mexican too, right? He was
Yeah,
like,
that's
what?
Spanish.
He didn't even
Half-
Spanish.
half-
I was like, where did he get that Shackelford
it's
from?
a stage name.
Is it?
My real last name is Estrada. It's Latino.
See?
Wow.
There you go.
How'd you land on Shackelford?
When my mom was my parents were, they were one of the, this is gonna take it off the rails. They were one of the early founders of the Church of Scientology. Them and L. Ron Hubbard. They ran around.
Your mom?
And my dad. Mostly my dad. They were they were in the inner circle of the Church of Scientology when it started, and L. Ron Hubbard would come over for dinner every weekend, and
That's actually mind-blowing.
Wow.
I'll never forget what my mom said. She said, "He's the ugliest man I've ever met."
Can we pull him up? Can we pull him up?
But she
He's pretty
said,
ugly.
he was so charismatic, that we were sort of spellbound by him, And anyways, my family, my mom and dad, we were in the Church of Scientology. This is when it began.
So is this in California?
This was in D.C. L. Ron Hubbard was trying to get something going in. There was already a headquarters in D.C., but it didn't have much money, and it was just starting out. And like any religion, you want to grow, you want to get bigger. Mm-hmm. So my dad was appointed. Okay, I want you to set up the Church of Scientology. Finish setting it up here in D.C., and then I want you to go all around the country and start new chapters of the Church of Scientology.
Wow.
All throughout the country.
Like a disciple.
Yeah, he was, he would start chapters, and then after about 6 months, once it was, up and walking, we moved to another town, and then started another chapter. This was before it became this monolithic, money-grabbing, psycho cult. Like anything, it started out with very good intentions.
Okay. Yeah.
And it actually caused the divorce of my parents because my dad wanted us to go live on this ship called Sea Org. It was a merchant marine ship that was converted into a traveling Scientology church, thing where you'd sail around the world and try to get different countries to start a chapter of Science, and we would have to go live on the ship permanently, traveling all around the world, starting new chapters of Scientology. And my mom was like, "Nope."
Wow.
And my dad was like, "Come on, we gotta," And we owned some real estate, and then when my mom refused to let one of our houses become a Scientology office.
Wow.
They actually did bomb threats, to our house.
How old are you when all this was
little kids,
happening?
8, 7, 8, 9. I had no idea what was going on,
But were you? Even at like 8 or 9, like when I was a kid, I went to like Sunday school, every week. And I was like kind of interested. Were you interested in Scientology?
I didn't. To me, as a kid, I didn't know this was all going on. I just know we were constantly moving.
Okay.
And
Along the East Coast or cross country?
Mostly along the East Coast, but most of the time, my dad would go by himself to different cities. So my dad wasn't around a lot. So I wouldn't have to move all the time. But we moved enough where moving, packing up all your shit, moving, and then getting to a new place, setting it up, and then living there for like 6 months, and then packing it all up and moving again. That became second nature, and that's what I do at the Rock Bottom Show. It's an empty room with tables and chairs, and I bring in all the equipment. We do the show, and I pack up all the equipment, and I leave at the end of the show,
Right.
and it's a shitload of equipment, because the stage and the sound and the spotlight and the curtains and that's all brought in by me. And because we moved so much as kids, I got really good at learning to be portable with a lot of equipment.
Wow.
So there's kind of the reason I'm so good at that's why the name stand-up comedy to go, because we go into a room.
Oh, shit.
We go into a room that's just tables and chairs. and we turned it into a comedy club. And
Right.
and then after the show's over, we take everything away. And, if you saw the Rock Bottom room when I'm not there, you'd be like, wait, where did everything go? And so anyways, the constant moving enabled me to get comfortable with.
So into your adulthood, were you into Scientology at all?
No,
ever?
not at all. I
Okay.
was mad because it broke up my family.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
my dad left, and
Yeah.
Sam, can you give me a mic check?
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. I did lean into that a little bit.
Anyways, so my mom, she was a hippie Scientologist who would go to fortune tellers every week. What should I do next? And she was legitimately believing this stuff, which is weird because she's a smart woman. She's not an idiot, And she goes, look, I'm pregnant with this kid. What should I name this kid? And the fortune teller says, his name shall be Curtis Shackelford Estrada.
Wow.
So that's your middle name, huh?
Yeah, Curtis
Okay.
Shackelford Estrada. But my real name is Greg Estrada. And so my mom was like, okay, the fortune teller says that his name has got to be Curtis Shackelford Estrada. And my dad was like, nope, I want it to be named after my grandpa, Gregorio. So I became Greg Estrada instead of Curtis Shackelford. So when I started stand-up, I was like, I want a stage name because although my last name is Estrada, I was raised as white bread as you can imagine.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I not anything
So your
remote.
mom was white.
My mom was white. My dad was full-blooded Mexican.
I thought you were just like a very tan Irishman or something.
No. So
Tan Irishman.
Got a good tan going,
So I wanted a stage name because I had nothing remotely Latino about me. So I didn't want people thinking, oh, this guy's Latino. He's going to talk about, whatever Latinos talk about,
Right.
I didn't want people thinking, so, and I wanted sort of a nondescript name that nobody, you don't make any assumptions with Curt Shackelford. You don't make any assumptions. When you hear Estrada, you think, oh, the Latino beaner. He's probably going to talk about
But Curtis Shackelford, why is it so hard for me to say?
Shackelford.
Shackelford.
Because you're in the presence of greatness. It's normal.
Shackelford.
You can't pronounce it.
I was in ESL.
Shackelford.
Shackelford.
It's a tongue twister.
But it turns out it's a Jewish name,
Oh.
So people think I'm a Jewish show business producer.
Shackelford is?
Yeah, Shackelford is a Jewish name because I've had several people come up to me. Oh, what kind of Jew are you? Ashkenazi? Are you? And I was like, no, I'm not.
Man, so we got the name, we got the origin story for the name, for your name, and also stand-up comedy to go. Now it makes sense.
Yeah. So the stand-up comedy to go, the name really it refers to how a venue would use me, like Rock Bottom uses me as a comedy stand-up comedy show to go. Because as soon as the show's over, I pack everything up and I leave. It's
But that kind of like reflective of like when you say when you were younger and you guys would kind of move and it was like
So
it's symbolic in a way.
Yeah, and it enabled me to get really good at getting all my stuff together, putting it in the truck, arriving to Rock Bottom, setting it all up, doing the show, and then packing it up and leaving. Most people, when they see what I'm doing, they're like, "You're fucking nuts. This is insane." If you saw the amount of equipment that I bring in to that empty room,
it's a lot of work.
You would think this guy's out of his fucking mind because this is insane. But it's not insane to me because that's how I grew up. Everything was milk crates and card tables. We didn't have any furniture.
Wow.
Folding card tables and milk crates for chairs and everything. Everything. It was like a mash unit. Everything was like a mash unit.
So were you constantly like the new kid at school?
Yeah, constantly the new kid, and I was already shy. So I was picked on and bullied, and plus being in Bethesda, I swear to God, in the 1960s, I was the only Latino in Bethesda.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'll say even Montgomery County, but now of course they're everywhere. But growing up, I was the only brown kid in my school in Bethesda. They were all white working class people.
Right.
They weren't gentrified yuppies like it is now, but Bethesda used to be completely working class.
Damn, 1960. So when did stand-up become introduced to you? Like, was it just culturally, like something you started consuming as pop culture?
No, I was always just kind of funny as a defense mechanism, so they wouldn't punch me as hard, for being the new kid and also being brown. Ugh. You know, new and
brother,
brown.
ew.
One too many, am I right?
New and brown, and I was also little. I was a little guy, you know.
Yeah, right.
So it's just constant bullying. So you know, it's kind of as a defense mechanism, you know.
Yeah.
And I find bullying is a pretty common foundation with comics. You know,
It's pretty helpful, actually.
Most of them have been bullied in some way. You know, either bullied by a stepfather or a stepmom or or other kids in the neighborhood. You know, there's
that is interesting because I wouldn't say I was like full on bullied like when I was like a little kid, but I was looking back, I was definitely weird and didn't have friends.
You felt like an outsider. You felt like an outsider.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, what's my game plan to like get some people to like me?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That does seem like a foundation for comedians.
Yeah,
you know?
It's always something based on that. Because for me, that's why I'm so good at roasting. Because everyone used to roast the shit out of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, these guys are going to roast me. I got to learn how to roast them back.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes a muscle.
Yeah.
Your roasting is like so pinpoint accurate.
Man.
It's like it cuts so deep in such a funny way. It's unbelievable.
Sometimes I
really.
think that I'm not even scratching the surface. I need to reach my full form, man. For real.
Reach my full potential.
Yeah, sometimes I'm
Don't
so
go all
disappointed. No, sometimes during roast I go a little too hard where the crowd's like, oh, that was a good roast, but goddamn.
That happened at the last roast.
At the last
where
one.
like I when he was making fun of me, there were actually like awes for me, like pity for me.
I'm sorry.
And I was like,
Forgive
thank
me.
you guys,
I
thank you.
apologize.
So, anyways, I didn't get into stand up until I was 38 years old.
Okay.
Oh wow.
38 years old, and I people always told me you're funny, and I knew I was funny, you know, because I would say something and I'd be like, that's fucking brilliant.
That's pretty damn good.
I mean, all comics are delusional, but
Right.
But I was delusional too. But I also knew that's fucking brilliant.
Right.
You got something.
That's fucking,
It's delusion mixed with you know your own like
You're
talent.
intelligent. You're intelligent.
So I
enough.
was 38 years old, and you know, I was like, oh fuck, you know, and I worked in the family business all my life, and flooring contractor for the federal
I was going to say
government.
family business Scientology.
No. One of the things the Scientologists
I was Tom
wanted,
Cruise's
they also
guy.
wanted us to make L. Ron Hubbard one of the co-owners of our business, so he could start getting the business money too.
That's like
in addition to
mobstery.
in addition to the real, we own some houses, and he wanted one of the houses to make an office in Bethesda, because he had the office in D.C., but he wanted an office in Bethesda.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom wouldn't do it, and they did some bomb threats, and the FBI came and did the bomb search and everything, but they never arrested him. I don't know why. They didn't pursue it, you know.
Yeah.
But otherwise, he'd be in jail. You know, you can't do bomb threats.
Right.
And
Did your parents always stay in Scientology?
Say it again.
Did your parents stay in Scientology like their whole life?
My dad did. My
Okay.
mom, as soon as she realized that it was a money grabbing scam, as soon as she got the bomb threat, she was like, "Wait a minute, these people are not legit.
Right.
You don't bomb threat people because you refuse to give them one of your houses to make an office.
Yeah.
You know."
And your dad is Mexican.
My dad's Mexican, and he
So
he
the first Mexican in Scientology, then essentially, right?
I don't know.
Wow.
Probably
The glass
because
ceiling, baby.
Well, he was bilingual. That's another reason they wanted him to be
shit.
sort of a what is it, recruiter, you know, because he was
the
bilingual.
diversity hire, if you will.
Yeah, but he spoke fluent English without an accent.
Yeah.
You know, but he was also bilingual. So
This is early. I mean, you're saying
this is the
1960s.
60s,
That's
or
so
the
cool.
late 50s, early 60s, and
How old are you? Like
60.
Really?
And
I say that because I'm surprised. You got a young.
yeah.
You got a pep in your step, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
you got a thing.
I feel like I'm still 25, but anyway, so my dad stayed with the church for another 20 years, and then he realized it was a scam, because as soon as my mom refused to put the family on the ship to go around the world, and also refused to hand over the lease to one of the houses so they could make that an office in Bethesda.
Right.
And as soon as she refused not to let them be co-owners of the business, of the carpet flooring business that was making money, as soon as she refused, they kind of shoved my dad off to they kind of put him on an outpost in Siberia.
Right.
Wow.
He got kicked out of the inner circle, you know. So my dad stayed with him another 20 years before he realized it's kind of a money-making scam too. So he got out of it too, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
And this was all before it became this
What it is
huge, scary cult.
Right.
This was before that, you know?
Yeah.
Everything starts out with good intentions and then the money comes in because all, you know, like most organizations, all they want to do is grow. And you need money to grow, you know? And then the money becomes the primary focus, you know? And anyway, so I started when I was 38 and I thought I was the funniest person on the fucking planet. I'm not lying. I thought I was fucking funny as shit.
Yeah.
And I walked into, back then, this was, I don't know, it was 20 years ago. I can't do math. So 20 years ago,
Like
this was
04.
in the comedy scene in DC was just one weekly open mic.
Wow.
It
crazy.
was called Wiseacres,
One.
and it was in a hotel. The Best Western Tyson's Corner Hotel. They had turned their bar into like a B room comedy club. You know, it wasn't the DC Improv. It was like a B room. You know,
Right.
So it was the bar, and they had like a little stage and a spotlight and a backdrop. Wiseacres Comedy Club. So it was a legit comedy club. You know, a B room though. You know, because it was in a hotel. And anyway, so there was only one Wiseacres in Tyson's Corner, and they had Wednesday and Thursday open mic. Friday and Saturday paid professional shows where they would bring in, headliners and have an MC feature headliner. And then if you were good at the open mics, they give you a guest spot on the Friday and Saturday show. And if you did well Friday and Saturday guest spot, then they then put the MC and then feature and then hopefully headliner.
So I have a question. So what era is this? 70s, 80s?
This would be whatever 20 years
like
ago.
2004.
Oh, this is 20. Okay,
Yeah.
2004.
This is 20 years ago. So,
okay, so we're not going that far back. So
no, but 20 years ago, I was
20 years ago. I guess what I'm saying is, the question is, where were the other mega spots in the country? Was it just New York, LA, Boston
New York,
at the time?
New York and LA.
New York and LA.
And then as the years went by, Chicago, and now Austin, and there's some other
Philly.
Philly.
Yeah, now there's some scenes. Yeah.
But DC was really not a scene at all.
Right.
You had a few brick and mortar full-time comedy clubs, Garvin's and the DC Improv and Comedy Cafe, the full-time brick and mortar clubs, but there weren't any open mics. Even the brick and mortar full-time comedy clubs 20 years ago, the DC Improv, Garvin's, and there's a couple others, they didn't have open mics.
Right.
They didn't have, which I thought that was strange. I thought every comedy club had an open mic on the weekdays to feed the Friday and Saturday pro shows, you know?
Right.
But they were using people from traveling around the country. They weren't using local people, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, Wiseacres was. I mean, the headliners were still brought in from out of town, but the MC and the feature acts were usually drawn from the open mics. So the Wednesday and Thursday open mic at Wiseacres, I walk in thinking I'm the fucking funniest person in the world, and I walk in and it's very drab, kind of, it's kind of a drab, depressing room. It's not really, done. It wasn't really done nicely. I didn't know at the time that it wasn't done nicely. So anyways, you walk in and there's like 50 comics, because
it's the only open
yeah,
mic.
it's the only open mic.
Yeah.
And also,
Yeah,
I thought there'd be like 5 or 6 other people,
Yeah, right.
So
you assume that your first open mic, you assume you see all the other comedians. You're like, well, this is the audience. You're like, these are the people coming to see us perform.
Yeah, it was mostly other comics.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think there was any audience except the other comics. So
right. Which
I walk in
sucks.
thinking I'm the funniest person in the world, and there's 50 people, and it's sign up on site. There's no sign up in email. I don't think you had email back then, but you didn't sign up in advance. You just show up and sign up, and hopefully you get picked. So it's 50 comics vying for 12 slots. Most of the time, I didn't get on. My first time I was there, I got on. So
wow.
And I did, I think 5 minutes, and I was nervous as shit. I was shaking. Shaking, but I knew I'm fucking funny. I got something to say.
You remember what you talked about?
I know this. I can't remember what I talked about. Just stories about growing up, but I was shaking. I was literally shaking, and but I knew this is fucking funny. I'm fucking funny. They got to hear that. They got to hear that. I got to get this out, And I did okay. I was really nervous. I was stuttering, and was choking on my words, because you don't count on the fear being that disabling. But I did okay. I did okay.
Yeah.
And I walked off and I think, holy fuck, man, I did it. And then this little scrawny kid, he looked like you except white. I'm sorry. He's this little scrawny kid from Baltimore named Eric Myers.
Killer, huh?
This kid, I mean, before he even opened his mouth, I was like, holy shit.
Oh, man.
And he proceeded to fucking destroy the place like I've never seen anybody.
Mhm.
And this little scrawny kid, and I noticed him when I walked in. He was very tucked away in the corner. He wasn't drawing attention to himself. He was almost trying to hide. I noticed with a lot of comics, they try to be invisible. You can sense it. They're kind of trying to be invisible. But man, when he got on that stage, it was like a fucking bomb going off, man. This guy just brought down the house and
buried you.
and I was like, holy shit. Holy shit, I'm the second funniest person. but this kid was so fucking funny. He was like, yeah, I smoke. He's got this scrawny Baltimore accent,
Yeah.
I smoked a lot of weed, and I'm a Pizza Hut delivery driver, and
so good.
I've smoked so much weed. Sometimes I would get lost, and I had to call the customer up. They go, hey, I'm in trouble finding you, and they're like, where are you? I'm still at Pizza Hut. I think I'm in the freezer.
Oh, shit.
It's fucking cold in here.
Right. That's awesome.
But you're not getting the full effect because it was
how he looked, how he said
it was how
yeah.
he looked. He's got this scrawny look, and he's hunched over, and he just the way he looked, the way he talked, the way he moved. In addition to good writing, you know, so he was like the complete package, and he was fucking hilarious, and so that was a little depressing. And then probably 5 or 6 other guys that were funny as shit too.
Yeah.
And I walked out of there thinking, there's a lot of other funny people. This isn't going to be as easy as I thought.
Well, but okay, so you do it in 2004. I assume before you did it, you had like an itch for a while. Like, I feel like I need to do this.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that, you keep putting off, I have time, but then I kind of had like a midlife crisis. Holy shit, I'm 38.
Yeah.
You said you put it off for years, right?
Well, I would like, I come from a pretty small town in Texas, but there was they opened a comedy club when I was like 18 maybe. And I would literally drive past it, like being like, maybe like one day. And then like, a while back, like a year ago, I was like looking in there and I was like, I'm going to do it. And I was like, I can't do it. And then I put it off another week. And then I put it off another week. And then I finally just went in, put my name on the list. And even when I put my name on the list, I was watching the show and just like you, I'm like, there are some fucking killers on this lineup.
Right.
And even then I was like, nobody knows me here. I could just leave. They call out my name, Sam Love. They're like, oh, I guess he's not here.
I want to mention Eric Myers, the kid who he's actually a huge legend in DC. If you ask any of the old timers, if you mention Eric Myers, they're like, oh my God, he was the funniest person.
Awesome.
He passed away a couple years ago. He was the fucking funniest person on the planet. I mean, everybody reveres him as the great comic from DC that never made it because he had a drinking problem. So every time he would get almost a break, Comedy Central wants you to do a half-hour special. He'd get drunk and he wouldn't show up. So his alcoholism ruined his career, but he was still able to, create a legend with just incredible charisma, incredible writing. There's videos of him online.
So seeing and being a part of this early.
But I wanted to back up. Yeah. I wanted to mention Eric Myers, he would be at Wiseacres, and he told me, I got to know him, and I used him at my shows many times, until he moved to, where did he move to? He moved to LA, I think. Anyway, so the first 3 times that he signed up and they called his name, he ran out of the building.
Wow.
And he said the fourth time, his friend had talked to the manager and arranged to have the doors locked. So he couldn't get out.
Wow.
So
shout out to that friend.
So he
that's a good friend.
He kind of literally pushed him on stage, And
in a weird way, that's like his Stockholm syndrome. He gets trapped and falls in love with stand-up.
And
face your fear.
And thankfully he did. But anyways, look him up. He's
Eric Myers.
Eric Myers with a ERIKMYERS. Just there's some good online clips of him. you know.
So after your first time, did you start hitting it pretty hard? You're like, I'm gonna.
I did. Now, I was 38 years old. All of the other comics, all of them were 19, 20, 21, 22. Give a Hoot is the weirdest open mic I've ever seen. In that everyone is 59, 60, 61, 62. You know, I call it. I'm going to get in trouble for this. I call it Give a Coot because there's some fucking old people. It's mostly old people. It's mostly old people.
The first time I went to Give a Hoot, I asked you if I could get on, and you're like, list is full, but stay and watch the show. Maybe I can get you on at the end. And so I was like, okay. So I sit and watch the show. First guy goes up in his 60s. Second guy goes up in his 60s. Third guy goes up. And I was like, what is going on? I was like, who are all these guys?
Yeah, very, very strange. Yeah, most open mics are, they're, very young kids. And the first time I was at Wiseacres, this kid came up to me. He goes, are you here to see your son? And I was like, God damn it. And I was like, yeah. Yeah, he's that kid over there, and I pointed inadvertently. I inadvertently pointed to Eric Myers because he was just, And then after the show, it's like, your kid is fucking hilarious. Yeah. You're okay, but your kid is fucking hilarious.
That's my boy.
You know what you should have done? You know what you should have done is been like, actually, my dad's here to see me. You're like, my dad's here.
At this time, Eric was, I think, 19 or 20.
Yeah,
he was just a kid.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I kept going back to the Wiseacres thing, sometimes getting on, sometimes not. But I got sick of driving to Tyson's Corner all the way from
Virginia?
Bethesda. Yeah, it's in Virginia. And people from Maryland, we fucking hate Virginia. If this podcast was in Virginia, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. Even if you offered me $1,000, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So anyways, I got sick of driving, and I thought, you know what? This isn't rocket science. They've got a room with tables and chairs and sound system. I get spotlight. I can find a bar or a restaurant in Bethesda and say, look, what's your slowest night? They'll say, I don't know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I say, all right, look, I'm going to bring an open mic show to your place. It's going to bring bodies in here. You don't got to pay me anything, and I'll run it. I'll market it. I'll produce it. I'll do the whole thing. You don't got to do anything. And those are great, beautiful words to a restaurant owner. You don't got to do anything, and I'm going to bring all these bodies in here.
For sure.
On your slowest night, Yeah. So they were like, sure, So I found a place in Bethesda that's since closed. So I started running my own show on Monday nights. That was their slowest night, and I proceeded to make every possible mistake you could make as a comedy show producer because I didn't know. Yeah. I just knew that I was sick of driving to Tyson's Corner. I can pretty much recreate what they're doing here. At a local restaurant, and buy a little lamp and microphone and, get some bullshit, spotlight and, just, like a makeshift show and put it on. And we did it for, I don't know, a couple years. And,
where was this at?
It was a place called Parker's in Bethesda, which has since closed. It's a couple blocks from Rock Bottom, but they since closed. And then I found a place, they closed down, so I had to go find another place. I found a place in DuPont Circle, and I found a place in Foggy Mountain. So many rooms failed for one reason or another. But each time the room failed, I'd be devastated, either because they kicked us out, or the venue shut down, or something happened where we can't do the show anymore. And let me back up. The reason I was able to get my first room, Parker's in Bethesda, the reason I was able to get them to let me do it is because I learned this really great marketing trick. When you're pitching an idea to someone, you say, now, I want you to come and see this show at Wiseacres so you see what I'm talking about. And once you see the show at Wiseacres, I'm going to bring that to you, because it's really hard to explain to somebody, open mic, stand-up comedy. Well, wait a minute, these comedians, they're not famous? Nobody's going to come see comedians that aren't famous. What are you talking? I don't understand. Yeah. How can they be funny? How can they be funny if they're not famous? If they're not famous, then they can't be funny. So I brought them to Wiseacres. And I said, okay, I want you to watch the show, and then we're going to transplant this to your place. And he saw Eric Myers, and he was like, holy shit. how come this guy isn't funny? And there were 5 or 6 other people that were not as good as Eric, but funny. They were fucking funny. And so I convinced him with an example of what I wanted to bring to your venue.
A proof of concept.
Yeah, a proof of concept, right. Yeah. So he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it, So that's what I would do whenever I needed to start a new room. I would invite them to invite the venue owners to come see the show at an existing venue that I was doing.
Yeah.
And I think I had 3 or 4 or 5 rooms going on all at once,
Wow, that's a lot to handle.
I had quite a little empire of shows, and then I kind of whittled it down just to the Rock Bottom show because Saturday night was the best night. The other nights, the Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, it's hard to get real audience.
But were
to come
those
out.
Just open mics, or were those like
Those
showcase?
were open mics. Open mics, and then
because the Rock Bottom show is certainly not. An open mic yet.
Well, the Rock Bottom show, I had open mics, and then I had my Saturday night showcase. I had it at the Hyatt Hotel in Bethesda, just up the street from Rock Bottom. I was there for 10 years, and then I was at Positano Italian Restaurant for 5 years, which is right across 1 block over from Rock Bottom. So I always had the Saturday night show, and I would use the weekday open mics to feed the Saturday show. The funny people that I had on my weekday open mics, they would become the MC feature headliner of the Saturday show. I never brought people in from out of town. Because I always fed the Saturday show with the local people from the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday open mics that I had. So it was like the feeder system.
It's pretty admirable.
I never needed to grab guys from New York or LA or because I was committed to using only local talent because it just makes so much logistical sense, to use local people, because a couple times I would bring a guy in from New York, but then it would be like, oh shit, I'm still on the Jersey Turnpike, and I'm like, the show's in 20 minutes, and then
I'm leaving Manhattan right now.
That happened a couple times, and I was like, fuck this, I'm using only local people. And sometimes I'll grab a guy from Philly or New York for the Rock Bottom show, but only if it's someone I've used before who I know won't call me up 20 minutes and saying, "Oh, hey, I'm still on the Amtrak train. We derailed." Some bullshit logistical thing. Where
how long? So the show that you do Rock Bottom on Saturdays. How long have you been doing that?
The Rock Bottom. I've been at Rock Bottom for 2 years, but that same exact show was at Positano on Fairmont Ave, 1 block over from Rock Bottom. It was there for 5 years, and then it was that same show was at the Hyatt Hotel on Wisconsin. Just a couple blocks up from Positano
for
Wisconsin.
10 years, right?
For 10 years. So the Rock Bottom show, even though we've only been there for 2 years, is actually 15 years of work.
Yeah.
15 years because it's the same exact show,
Yeah.
I use the same equipment, the same setup, the same booking strategy. So it's really, 15 years of work. That's the Rock Bottom show is.
So when you started accumulating these shows, is that where you kind of stopped? You kind of fell back from doing stand up yourself and kind of focused on
the reason I started my own room was so that I would be guaranteed stage time and I wouldn't have to schlep to Virginia. Right there in Bethesda, and I emceed it, so I was the MC, and I was funny. But there were people that were half my age and twice as funny. Eric Meyer's good example. Half my age, twice as funny. And I realized, you know what? I'm a good comic, but I'm a great producer. So I realized, you know what? You got to do what you're great at, because being a good comic, it's not enough. You got to be great. So I figured I'll be a great producer instead of a good comic, So I kind of pulled away from performing and focused on producing. Also because if you try to do both, you are going to fail. The one exception is Ramin Mostafavi, who produces shows and performs. God bless him. I don't know how he does it. He does both really well. But to do both well, like if I emceed the Rock Bottom show on top of actually running, my head would explode. I just don't think you can do both, with the exception of Ramin. I don't know.
What's interesting is the couple times I've done stand-up comedy to go, normally before the show starts, you get up there, make a couple announcements, kind of make it like pretty funny. And I remember both times, like I was like, this is really funny stand-up.
You could tell that you're comfortable up there.
But even with the pre-show announcements that I do, as I'm walking towards the stage, I feel like vomiting, and I'm like, what the fuck? Why am I doing this? I already have a hot wife. I don't need the money. Why am I doing this? This is insane.
Right.
Why am I, you know, and then I get up there and then, you know, once the anxiety plateaus and I get a couple laughs, you know, then I'm okay. Then I'm like, oh, this is kind of like surfing, you know, when you catch a wave and you know,
you're like, I can do this.
And you're riding the wave, you know, and the wave isn't riding you. When you're riding the wave and, you know, like surfing, you know, it's kind of fun, you know?
Yeah.
If you had to answer for yourself, why am I doing this? Like, is there an answer for you?
Because I know for a fact that as comedy show B rooms go, the Rock Bottom show would classify as a B room one nighter. As B room comedy clubs go, B room one nighters, I think it's the best B room one nighter in the country.
Absolutely.
And the reason is because I know how to set up a room. It's all about the physical setup of the room. The booking part of it is also why it's so good. But that's kind of simple, you know. Oh, you're funny, then you get on the show. Right. But how to set up a room physically so it works for comedy, I know I'm the best person in the world at this weird particular niche of how to transform a room into a comedy club so the comedy works. When you walk into Rock Bottom as a comic, just the way it looks, you I don't know if this is conscious, but you feel like, oh, okay, this feels okay, this will work.
Oh yeah.
If you walk into some other open mics, you walk in and you're like, oh fuck, this is going to be a struggle. Everything is set up wrong. There's too much light. You know, you can. I don't know if you've noticed that yet. Because you're still relatively new. But you walk into some open mics and you're like, oh fuck, this isn't going to work.
Well, like the show will be at like a pizza place, and it's like a massive room, 100-foot ceilings. There's like people scattered all throughout the room.
It doesn't feel like a show. When you walk into Rock Bottom, you immediately feel like, oh. This feels like a show.
Yeah.
This is gonna work. You
know?
Well,
one thing I love performing there is, first of all, it's pitch black in the room. Yeah, and when you're on stage,
because I bring all these blackout curtains and I black out all the windows with these, they're blackout curtains. They block out all the light.
Yeah.
The shades they have at Rock Bottom, they only block out about 50% of the light. You know, and they're like, oh, you don't need to bring those curtains. We have these. Like, no, there's still too much light.
You wouldn't even know there were windows there.
Right. So everything's blacked out, and
you also wear black face when you're there as well. So you black out everything.
Just at the late show. Just at the late show. But so I don't want any visual distractions. In other words, your mind can't wander.
Yeah.
There's only the spotlight. You can't see anything else, you know?
Yeah.
And
weirdly that makes me feel very comfortable as a comedian.
Yeah, because I learned over 20 years of rooms failing, my own rooms failing, and I was like, wait a minute, you know what? There were too many visual distractions at that room, too many audio distractions, like a squeaking kitchen door, or the noise from the kitchen, you know, like all these little things, you know. And I finally realized, just by osmosis, not so much consciously, but I just realized, you know what? Yeah, this time I'm going to make sure that there's no noise coming from the kitchen. I'm going to make sure those windows are blacked out. So I slowly learned how to transform a room into a comedy club, so the comedy works. And if the room is set up right, a good comic will have a great set.
That's so true.
A mediocre comic will have a good set. Now, it won't make a bad comic have a good set.
Right.
I mean, you can have the most perfect setup in the room. It's still not going to. But it can be the difference between a good comic having a good set and a great set.
Well, you know, that is such a weird thing, because the last time I did it in January, I got off feeling very good about my set, and then I listened to it back, and I'm like, you know. Like I kind of stuttered a little bit.
But you're looking at it through a microscope that other people aren't looking through.
Right.
Yeah. So your own opinion of your comedy is worthless. I mean, because you're looking at it through this microscope. All you see are the mistakes. Like a musician when they're playing guitar. You don't know this, and I don't know this, but in that song they just played, they made like 7 or 8 mistakes. Right. But the audience, we didn't notice.
Right.
But they noticed, and all they're thinking of is, "Fuck, I didn't hit that chord right." You know.
They perceive you totally different, like the audience does. The way I think about it is, think about before we started doing comedy, and when we would watch a comedian. Like if we went to a show, like it was almost magical. You were there. It was a feeling. You were there for it, right? And it was.
Yeah,
it is. As a comic, you kind of lose vision of that.
Well, that is interesting because your review when you go see a comedian and you're not a comedian, you kind of the way you review it after the show is funny or not. You know, there's no like, oh, like
you're
I
not
love
using
this
the microscope.
line.
You're not using the microscope.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again,
but the microscope is helpful because you can tweak things. But when your microscope is focusing only on the mistakes, throw that fucking microscope away.
Yeah.
You're using the wrong lens. You know, stop looking at the mistakes because there's always going to be mistakes. There's always going to be mistakes.
Yeah,
this is an art form. It's not. It's not a binary science thing. Is that the word? What?
Who knows?
Binary. Binary is like 0
binary.
or 1.
Yep.
Is that the right word?
Yep. Duality, 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's an exact science. Comedy is not. You know, I mean,
it's not black or white. It's gray. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. You know, you're always gonna stutter. You're always gonna stutter. You know, and thank God that shows you're human. You know,
right?
I mean, Eddie Morrison, he headlined Rock Bottom last night, and he delivered this joke, and it got sort of a lukewarm laugh, and he goes, "God damn it, I'm going to tell that joke again because I know you guys aren't giving it enough credit, you know." And so it revealed that he's a human, He was offended that we didn't laugh hard, He goes, "God damn it, I know that's a good joke. You guys are fucking. I'm sorry."
The audience loves that too. You know, the audience loves that.
And then they realize, he's a guy struggling to get his point across,
Right.
Being knee deep in comedy as you are, as far as in the scene and what you do as a producer, do you digest anything on the mainstream, or over the years have you, say, consumed specials from guys who are, say national tours or stuff like that?
I don't watch comedy or listen to comedy in my off time. I just don't. I'm sick of it.
Yeah,
I don't consume it. I like documentaries. I like murder mysteries.
And also, once you experience like a live comedy, listening to it like on Spotify or Netflix, it's just I don't think it's very good. Like,
in fact, when people send me videos to watch to get on the Rock Bottom show, I don't watch them. I close my eyes and I listen to it like a radio because I have so much screen fatigue that I can't stand to look at another glowing screen,
Yeah.
So I listen to their videos with my eyes closed as a radio.
Right.
And I'm listening for their timing, their delivery, their stage presence, and also the laughter, how much laughter there is,
Speaking about kind of like your criteria, like your radar, like how does someone get on your radar?
They either sign up to be a 3-minute newbie first timer, and if they for the 3-minute newbie first timer thing, which really is the pure open mic thing, I don't screen them. You could be Adolf Hitler. You're on for 3 minutes. So
Hitler had a pretty good set, as I recall, too, at the show. So.
Yeah, he kind of lost the crowd at the end.
He lost the crowd.
He killed himself, right? Is that right? On stage?
Anyways, what was I saying? So they sign up for their 3 minutes, and I watch them their 3-minute set, but not for the writing. I don't give a shit about the writing. What I'm watching for is stage presence, charisma, likability, that X factor, that star quality, that certain aura that makes me want to hear what you have to say, even if your writing isn't great. Like Laura Williams, I knew right away, I want to hear what this woman has to say. Even before she started talking, I want to hear what this woman has to say.
Yeah.
So if I notice that you've got that X factor in the 3-minute set, then I'll let you do a 5-minute guest spot,
right? And
then I'll keep you in the rotation, to hopefully, and then do 5-minute guest spot a few times, and then MC, and then feature, and then maybe headliner, in a couple years.
It's funny you say that thing about charisma because in my hometown scene, I remember every week there was this guy, who he bombed every week at the open mic, and he came back every week. And one time I got to talk with some of the guys in the scene. I was like, I know he always bombs, but I really think he's got something interesting.
Right.
And they all hated him. They were like, he sucks. And I'm like, but he talks about such interesting, like, premises and like has such an interesting delivery.
Right. Your mind did not wander.
Yeah. But the audience didn't get him.
Right.
But like, I really enjoyed his comedy. I'm like, with a lot of work, I think he really has something.
Yeah.
But all the other comedians couldn't stand him. They're like, he's just taking up space at the mic, like he sucks.
But he had that X factor that made you want to hear what he had to say, and what he had to say didn't really matter because it was the charisma you were glued to, you know,
right?
You know, like Laura Williams, you know, she's just oozing charisma. You know?
Yeah, we love Laura. We had her on. She brought us Danishes.
Yeah. What a good mom.
Brought you Danishes? Oh, I was supposed to bring you guys something?
No. It was just
she brought you. Wait, she was the guest and she brought you Danishes? That's a woman. That's what women do.
We were kind of hoping you would bring something.
We're
kind of offended. Actually,
since her now, we offer at least some type of snacks and food and water. There's an Italian sub upstairs.
No, there is not.
I swear.
No, there is it.
You got me into. I was just joking.
No, we all got subs.
I did.
Okay, can I get mine to go? Because I can't eat. I can't eat while.
Take it to go. It's
like, where is it from? Is it from an Italian?
Potbellies.
I'm sorry. You live in the heart of possibly the most ethnically rich city in Maryland. There are authentic Italian places, authentic Mexican places, authentic Indian places, authentic Ethiopian places, and you went to fucking Potbelly. What kind of shit show?
Shit.
We almost went to Subway.
Right. You're so right.
It was between that or Subway.
I mean, there are so many ethnically pure mom and pop restaurants in Wheaton, Maryland.
Why did you say this?
Wait. Who? I want to know who is the guy who said, let's just get him fucking Potbelly.
It was not me.
Let's get him Potbellies. He won't even know. He won't even know what he's.
I thought I was getting fancy subs. Yeah.
I've never had Potbelly. I've never had Potbelly. It may be good.
I would love to know what you think after the fact. After the fact.
Maybe at the end of the podcast, we'll get him to take a bite.
No. But I will get it to go.
Yeah, take it to go. Warm it up late night.
I know
snack.
he's going to be eating it on the drive home, take one bite, just throw it out the window. It's like, this is shit.
No, but I will say I probably will have to finish making it when I get home because there probably won't be enough oil and vinegar dressing.
Right.
I'll probably have to add some jalapeno. And probably the meat's a little bit too processed. And I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
Are you a food guy?
Not really. I mean,
okay, because it sounds like it.
He does get the chimichanga.
No, every time I buy a sandwich, I always have to get it home, and I always have to finish making it. Like there's not enough mayo, or the meat isn't spread out evenly.
I respect that, man.
You got to spread the meat
you
out
said you're
evenly.
a control freak. I'm a control freak as well. Like I'm the same.
You're probably a nightmare at Chipotle. You're like, it's too much cheese, too much.
You know, I don't go to Chipotle. I don't go to Chipotle, and I don't go to places like where it's you move along the line and you say, I want that, and I want that, and I want that. And the reason I don't go is because I'm so social anxiety and codependent that the server, the person spooning it out, I know that each time you ask for another thing, you can see them just do this fucking.
Oh yeah.
What?
Sounds like prison.
Every time they spoon it out, they're like, "Fucking, is this the last? Hopefully, this is the last thing he wants."
No, that's so true.
And some guys, they order every single 20 things that are on there, and you can see the servers are ready to fucking throw the shit at you. And I feel their disgust because they hate their job,
right.
and every time they got to, oh, jalapenos! You want the green beans and the onion? I feel their hatred. You know,
one time I was behind somebody who was being difficult in a Chipotle line, and these people are getting paid like what, $8 an hour, and she's like, let me get a bag of chips with my meal. And as she's getting the cashier's ringing her up, she goes into the bag, grabs a chip, she eats it, and she's like, that's pretty stale. Yeah. And you can just see the life go out of the cashier. Look, lady, this is Chipotle. They're all going to be stale, all right? Yeah. There's no fresh chips here. Yeah. But she was like, can you get another bag? And the cashier was like, they're all going to be the exact same. Yeah. She just said that straight up to her, we don't have better chips.
But if they had pre-made, I have the deluxe burrito #1, I can do that. But I just can't go along the line, moving along the line. And each time that I say, I want that thing, I can see in her face, I hope that's the last thing he wants.
What about this? What if you did it for yourself, like a buffet? Are you good with buffets where you're going
That's
down
fine,
the
'cause
line?
there's-
But there's
that's
no
fine because there's no
Interesting.
You know, I'm serving
So
myself.
you're empathetic. You just don't want them feeling like
In a way that's
I
kinda
gotta-
nice.
I can feel their rage and their
Yeah.
you know, like, you know, there's 20 things that you can get, you know.
Interesting,
So I
yeah.
get the bare minimum, like 7 or 8, you know. But even, you know, and then a guy in front of me is getting every single thing, you know.
Dude, Curt just gets a tortilla with cheese on it.
No, I mean,
he's
you know.
sympathetic to the working class.
No,
That's
I
what
just,
he's trying to say.
I feel their hostility, you know.
And you don't like that.
I was at a restaurant on the waterfront, and it was an expensive boutique restaurant, and I hate going to those places because it was Sunday brunch, and it was with my wife and some friends, and so, you know, as Danny Rouillet says, it was a court ordered meal. So it's Sunday brunch, and they had hot chocolate, and I was like, I'm gonna get some hot chocolate. I ordered the hot chocolate, but in this restaurant, the waitress comes over and makes the hot chocolate right in front of you, like shaving chocolate off a big thing.
That's awesome.
Real chocolate off, and then making the whipped cream, and, you know, sort of like making guacamole at your table, or, you know, she had to make it at our table. You know, the hot chocolate, you know, and it was this big production, and I fucking hated it. I fucking hated it because I could see this woman. I could see
the single tear that fell.
I know that she was crying in the bathroom before this, and I know that she's gonna go fucking cry in the bathroom after this. That she has to do this little dog and pony show for these people.
Good, though.
You know, I
were you just saying sorry the whole time she was making it?
No,
I'm sorry.
I was like, you don't need to do that. And she goes, yeah, I do. My manager's watching me. I have to do this, you know? So I gave her a $20 tip, and I was like, you know, here, go cry in the bathroom.
That's commendable,
and not
man.
to mention
because I knew that she was, you know, this is my fucking life. I'm doing this little dog and pony hot chocolate show, you know.
It's bad enough to be a 60-year-old
in a
man.
weird
that
way,
orders hot
that's
chocolate.
why you're so empathetic to us comedians and open bikers, because like we are all that person. Like literally, we are that lady. We're on stage trying to say a thing, and you're just like, oh man, look at that sad puppy.
Yeah, but I wanted to write a letter to the restaurant. I said, don't humiliate your wait staff. Don't humiliate your wait staff by having them do this. Now, make the hot chocolate the fancy way, but do it in the kitchen, and then bring me the hot chocolate already made. And what was also annoying was that we had to sit there and watch her performance, which took about 10 minutes.
I would love to take him to see Salt Bae.
What is Salt Bae? What is Salt Bae? I don't know.
So Salt Bae, he's like this fancy dude online who he does these big meat platters, pause, no homo, and he like cuts them and then he like sprinkles salt on them like this, and he wears like glasses and they bring it out on him. Have you seen the guy?
I've seen this guy.
Yeah. So how would you feel about him? Would you feel the same way? Like he's a multi-millionaire.
But I think he's enjoying the performance,
right.
so that's different.
That's
I'm talking about the woman who,
right, because it's a hassle. They're like, oh, now I gotta
well, the
make this hot
difference between a performer and someone who's doing it as a job, like
right.
Yeah.
So he's doing it as a performance and enjoys it.
Interesting.
How do you feel about like hibachi? You go to a hibachi restaurant.
That's
they're
a
doing
great question. We're going down a great premise.
Again, I would say that he's enjoying his performance.
What if you saw one that was really pissed the whole time? Like he's just fucking like he's like mad. You can tell he's pissed.
I wouldn't know. As your bit about
Yeah,
Japanese
you
people,
wouldn't know
you wouldn't know they were
Japanese.
angry or
Yeah.
happy. You know, because the Japanese
I'm
people.
so happy.
Yeah. Right.
When he throws the egg at you, he throws it a little too hard. You know.
Right.
Now, like,
By the way, you got to expand that bit to include every ethnicity. 'Cause
I'm trying, man. I
you-
stopped
that-
doing
you-
the
you-
Asian
you hit,
ones.
You hit a comedy gold mine, and keep. There's a lot of gold in there because you could do every ethnicity.
you haven't heard it. Some new
you
stuff.
could do every
on there.
ethnicity.
I'm just talking about how different accents for ethnicities have certain connotations, and you can't shake it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so then I
right.
go through the accents.
So
I had to
And,
stop.
and your accents are spot on too.
I had to stop doing the Asian one, man.
Why?
Because no one's receptive to the Asian. Everywhere I've done it, it's like the other ones get what I kind of want, but then when I do go to the Asian ones, people are like, they want to
Keep doing it.
Yeah.
Do what
Keep
you
doing
think is funny, and the world.
I think
will,
it's hilarious.
The world will catch up.
Yeah.
I want to get that engraved. Do what you think is funny, and the world will catch
it's
up.
so true.
Do what you
Look
think
at
is funny,
Shane
and
Gillis.
also, you should only be doing what you think is funny. Period. Not like, there's a lot of Jewish people in the audience. I think I'll do this. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Do what you think is funny that night at that moment. And the reason you want to do only what you think is funny, because if you're doing what you think is funny, there's real emotion behind it.
Yes.
And the emotion behind it is usually what sells the joke. You know,
Yep.
like you go to a rock concert and I saw Neil Young a couple times, and he wouldn't play his old stuff. He wanted to play the stuff that he wrote on the bus on the way to this concert, because he was excited. There was real emotion behind the song, so he wanted to play that song. He didn't want to play Like a Hurricane. I played it 1,000 fucking times. There's no more emotion behind it. You know,
in a weird way, that's why music and comedy are the opposite, because music, you always want to hear their old stuff. Comedy, they're like, what else you got? What else you got? Like, we've heard that
musicians got it so good, man.
Yeah, you make a couple hits.
You got a residency. You could do shit from 40 years ago.
The Rolling
and still
Stones
be
have been milking Satisfaction
But to his
for
point,
60
you're
years.
also pressing play, right? So you're doing the same thing over. Maybe you're losing the joy in the performance, right?
You lose the emotion behind it, but if you have a brand new bit that you wrote on the way to the stage, that's happened.
The one thing musicians can do, though, that I'm jealous of, that us comedians, I guess it's possible, but the way musicians do it is so crazy, is like when they give the chills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is going to sound crazy, but I was watching Filipino karaoke videos earlier. Do you guys know about
karaoke?
Do you know about the Filipinos and karaoke?
No.
Dude.
My son's girlfriend is a Filipino, and I'm going to ask her about it.
You should ask her,
So I'm just going to go out there and say it. Every person in the Philippines can sing karaoke like professionals. Like,
Racisto.
No. It's a real thing. This is Brandon.
That's Spanish for racist.
You know about this, right? Like
it's a cultural thing. Okay.
It's a cultural karaoke to them is a cultural thing. It's
and it's serious art form. It's not a bullshit art form like Americans treat it.
It's so real. Like I watched earlier. There's this. I don't even know if she's Filipino. I'm pretty sure she is. But Morissette is this girl's name, and they call her Asia's Phoenix.
I don't know Phoenix.
Well, just like the idea of a phoenix, like rising from the ashes, the Greek phoenix.
And she's got a great voice.
Oh my god!
Wait, so you're saying like, when Americans go out, they're like, haha, isn't it funny I'm singing
They don't
this
treat
song?
they don't treat it like an art form.
And you're saying they're like, this is
an art form.
This is genuine. I'm being real.
Right.
Wow, that is interesting.
I'm talking about to where, like, if you have a group of Filipino girls that are just like cousins and they go out to do karaoke, they will all sound like Christina Aguilera, Celine Dion, like better than the actual singers.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's an art form.
Yeah.
You know? Okay. I did not realize that.
It's
I did not realize that.
It's so major.
Well, isn't the lead singer of Journey
anyway, what was
Filipino?
the point? What was the point?
What was the point?
What were we even talking about? Were we talking about?
I want to rename this podcast. What was your?
Get to the point.
You have been the best with bringing us back on track. Because we've been on 100 tangents.
Okay, I did have a question. Okay, was your son?
Wait. I want to say something about karaoke.
Yeah.
I see until you explain that to me, that they see it as an art form. I see karaoke as the general public sees stand-up comedy. The general public does not see stand-up comedy as an art. I call stand-up comedy the black sheep of the arts.
Oh,
They don't see it as an art, and I'm guilty of that for seeing karaoke that way. I never saw it as an art, but now that you make the point about the Philippines, where they treat it seriously,
I'm gonna send you some videos.
that it is an art, as it is an art.
Yeah.
Well, he just brought up a point. The lead singer of Journey is
Filipino.
They swapped him out with a Filipino. Well, not swapped him out. They
They're like, you're done. We're trying to get diversity in Journey. Steve Perry got replaced by this Filipino guy.
Steve Perry, he's got a fantastic voice. Steve Perry died.
But he got replaced by a Filipino
who sounds exactly like
if
him.
not better.
From his karaoke experience?
Just from being Filipino.
I hope that's how they found him in karaoke.
I bet he did like Journey karaoke.
100%, dude. 100%. So
funny. Does he look like him?
No. Just at a Filipino bar, he's like, just a city boy.
This is how much they're known for that. The singer I'm talking about, Morissette, she has like her own Filipino songs, but when she gets booked, like she got booked to sing at like a Mitsubishi like foundation thing, and she did Dream On.
So in the Filipino karaoke scene, there's probably like different clubs, and then there's like regular who show up, and then there's probably
They're like that's Eric Myers.
Yeah. That's fascinating. That's fascinating. Just like you never knew the subculture of stand-up comedy in DC. You would never
feel like
realize.
it's like baseball in Japan.
Yeah.
I think we should all give up stand-up, move to the Philippines, and become open mic karaoke people.
Dude, I feel like you can fucking sing some Meatloaf.
So my son, she's coming to visit us. I never met her. I'm going to ask her about this. I'll be like, I'm going to be very, very low key. I'm like, Rock Bottom, I do the comedy show on Saturday. They got karaoke there on Tuesdays, and she'll go, I'm going to watch her face.
She's just going to be like, and
we'll always love you.
That's so funny.
Okay, so you have a son, which I didn't know.
I had a son. I have a son who he is 29 years old. He works for Google out in LA.
Wow.
That's sick.
He's one of the people that types in, "Did you mean?"
Really?
No, it's a joke. I tell that to I tell that to older folks, and they're like, "Oh, I always wondered who did that." Tell him I said thank you. It's so helpful because sometimes I didn't mean what I typed in. And it's so helpful. Tell him I said thank you, and then I follow up with, I don't need to tell him you said thank you because he's also one of the cell phone eavesdroppers.
No.
He already knows. He already knows. Yeah.
And so I do that with old people.
So
But the young people know
LA.
it's bullshit.
Do you ever want to be a comedian?
No, because he grew up helping me at the shows, packing,
like,
setting up,
I want to fucking do this.
setting up and packing up, and for the first 5 years that I did the Hyatt show on Saturday night. For the first 5 years, we lost money. I lost money, and I wasn't able to pay my son and my wife. My wife worked at the door, and my son was like my production
business.
So I wasn't able to pay them, So they were like, no. I mean,
you should have gone into Scientology.
I had my day job at the family business that was helping keep the comedy show afloat, because the Hyatt show, I was paying the comics, and I was charging like $5 or $10 cover when I first started out, and for the first 5 years. We just weren't getting enough audience, but I had to pay the comics. So for the first 5 years, I lost money. I wasn't able to pay myself. I didn't pay my wife, and I didn't pay my son for the first 5 years. But the shows were fantastic. The local pool of talent is incredible, and it's still incredible today. Yeah. But for the first 5 years, I lost money. But I knew, God damn it, these guys are fucking hilarious. The show is good. It's got to catch fire. It's got to catch fire any day now. And at the 5 year mark, I had been doing it 5 years, and I knew that the show was really fucking good. The comics were funny. I had the room set up right. Everything was right. Why isn't this catching on? Why aren't we selling out? My wife was like, you tried, you gave it a shot. Let's pack it. Let's have this be our last year. And I just couldn't understand. Why wasn't there a line out the door for as funny as these guys were, and affordable $10? Come on a Saturday night, everything was right. Why didn't it catch fire? And then right on my last year. This was my Saturday show at the Hyatt, which became Rock Bottom, where I was paying the comedians and charging a cover. Not like the open mics where it was free, and I wasn't paying the comics. This was like a real paid thing, and right at that last year, the fifth year, which I agreed with my wife, this would be our last year, it caught fire. Wow. Enough people said to their friends, neighbors, coworkers, this little comedy show at the Hyatt, nobody famous, just local guys, it's fucking hilarious. And slowly in that last year, the tipping point, it finally caught fire. And ever since then, at that 5 year mark, selling out most nights because enough people told other people that, I know you never heard of these comedians. Yeah, I know it's in the basement of the hotel in a meeting room that's been converted into a comedy club with the fake brick wall and, but it's really good, And then right at that fifth year, we started selling out. It was just like it caught fire. Yeah. Right. And I for the first 5 years, I kept doing paid advertising, trying to get the word out. I spent thousands of dollars on paid advertising.
Like in the newspaper?
In the newspaper. I did a couple radio commercials, late at night, for like a couple thousand, and I couldn't understand. This show is great. Why, why isn't it working? The paid advertising did nothing. You know what it came down to in this age of high-tech internet? Word of mouth.
Yeah.
Sunday brunch.
Right.
Me turning to a friend at the Sunday brunch saying, I saw this little show at the Hyatt, with these comedians. I know nobody famous. It was only $10, and it's just in this room, and they got a fake brick wall and all this shit, But it was really good. Man. So word of mouth.
You overheard
word
this?
of mouth. No. I started asking people, how did you find out about the show?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, my husband saw it a couple of weeks ago, and he talked me into it. And I can see the doubt in their faces who'd never seen the show before, because their friend talked them into it, said, "Oh, it's really good. Yeah, come on." So I
thought about rock bottom in that sense, and as far as like when I see you doing this show consistently, it's always a packed room consistently, and like how you said how it's set up, and like you said, it's a good room. You feel really good in there about your material, about the crowd, and everything.
And always killer comics.
And that's what I was thinking. I was like, man, this feels like built.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Again, to reiterate. Thousands of dollars wasted on paid advertising because I thought, the internet, the newspapers, TV, radio, multimedia, but nope, it was word of mouth, the most prehistoric kind of marketing.
It was true organic.
Yeah, this guy turning to his friend and saying, "Oh yeah, that little show I saw, it's really good. Are you serious? Yeah, I swear. Why don't you come with me next Saturday?" And it was always someone recruiting their friends or their wife or their husband, talking them into it.
Yeah.
And when they come in, I asked them, how'd you find out? Oh, I've seen the show and I brought my husband, and I can see the doubt in his face. Even though she talked him into it, I can see the doubt in his face. Right. But I know as soon as he sees the show the first time, he'll be hooked. Yeah. And he'll bring his brother, his cousin, his coworkers. And that's how it slowly built. Once they see the show the first time, they're hooked. But it's hard to get them to come that first time because this is not a real comedy club. I never heard of these comedians.
Right.
Why is it in the side room of a bar, a restaurant? Why isn't this a real comedy club? I never heard of any of these guys. And it's also, you walk in there with a lot of doubts.
It's reasonably priced too, where you're like, any just random person in Bethesda would be like, I'm $20 for a comedy show. I'll give that a shot. We'll see how, because if you don't like it, you don't really feel like you lost out on much, and the shows are always killer.
It's not like a $50 ticket at Capital One where you got to go through, it's like you still.
But I see the doubt in the first timers' faces, and then the person who has seen the show, who talked them into it, I can tell that they know that by the end of the night they'll be convinced. So it's it's a little bit of a Scientology cult that built through word of mouth.
Through word of mouth. Did it.
Thank you, L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Shackelford.
L. Ron was a marketing genius. He was a marketing genius.
Oh, for sure.
God.
Anyways, ironically, word of mouth. I never would have thought that's how that's how you build a business.
Well, that brings me to, we're coming towards kind of the end of the podcast, but I have a question now kind of about the future, right? Word of mouth, I think that we're at a good part now where it's like, okay, now that with what you've built, right? What is your vision of just continuing, like, is your vision just to keep doing rock bottom until you're done and then, as long as it makes you happy?
I'm trying to branch out into private parties. A lot of companies will have a holiday party, and they'll have it in a room. And if you ask, they'll just have it in a regular room with sometimes no stage. They'll have a sound system, no stage, no spotlight, lots of audio and visual distractions. And most private parties, you ask any veteran comic about private parties, and they're like, I fucking hate them because the room is never set up right. Yeah. In steps L. Ron Shackelford. and I have this unique gift. I can turn any room into a comedy club, do the show, and then pack up all that shit and leave. So I want to revolutionize the way private parties are done. Most private parties, comics dread them because the room is always not set up right. Even if they tell the venue, they tell the customer, look, we're doing it at this country club, okay? And I saw the activity room where we're doing it. You got to black out those windows. You got to get us some kind of stage, some kind of platforms, and you got to have some kind of spotlight. You have the sound system. You got that right. But the mic stand, you can't have a tripod mic stand. It's got to be around. So the comic tells the customer all this shit. And you know what the customer does? I can't. You know what? That's your job.
Yeah,
I can't be bothered. I'm just planning this holiday party.
We're paying you. So,
right. So most comics, when they walk into a private party, they gasp because they're terrified because the room is completely set up wrong. The audience is 20 feet away from the stage instead of 10 inches from the stage. You notice at Rock Bottom, they're fucking 10 inches from the stage.
I know. On purpose. They could touch my dick.
Yeah, on purpose. So I'm also trying to revolutionize the way private parties are done. I want the comics not to dread private parties, because when I'm involved, they're going to walk into any private party room, no matter the venue, they're going to walk into a pretty much similar to Rock Bottom setup. No audio or visual distractions. The room is going to be set up so it works for comedy, so they can breathe a sigh of relief, and just focus on performing.
Whoa.
That is weirdly a good business model. Like, in a sense, if a private party wants a comedian, it's almost smarter for them to hire a producer. And the producer hires comedians.
But the general public doesn't understand that you got to have the room set up right. The general public doesn't. All they know is, this guy's funny. Let's get him on. Oh, we need a sound system. Oh yeah, we got a mic. We can use the mic and a little amp. They don't think about stage. They don't think about spotlight. They don't think about the audience being 2 inches from the stage.
I mean, even me as a comedian, we know how it feels when we go into a place, right? But to the level of curation that you're talking about, I think it's opening my eyes to more of a kind of digesting the room a little bit different.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, right when I stepped foot in, Rock Bottom, your show, I was like, oh, this is like, you're kind of, in a weird way, kind of intimidated because you're used to shitty setups all the time as a comic. And seeing that, you're like, this is like a real show here.
Yeah.
Dark room, low ceilings, audience is packed in. That's perfect comedy right there. That's
it's
what
like
you need.
It's pure setup.
Yeah. But you shouldn't be intimidated. You should be elevated because it'll make a good set a great set.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do anything different.
Right.
You just got to be funny.
Yeah. It's a sense of relief.
You don't have to fight to get the audience's attention.
Exactly. That's so true.
And I will say that the open mic scene in DC has exploded. There's hundreds of shows now, and I would say probably half of them have realized they've done my show or they've seen my show and they've realized, oh yeah, you know what? You really do need a spotlight. You really do need the blackout curtains. You really do need to have all the noise from the kitchen blocked. You got to, he's right. Kurt's right. You got to do all this shit. So a lot of people like Capital Laughs, Underground Comedy, they I don't want to say copied me. They realized what I was doing was really important. It's the difference between a good set and a great set. And it's the difference between a good show and a great show. It's the setup of the room,
The audience's psychology is so delicate, right? When they're coming there for that, it's almost like, you're a magician in the sense of they don't know what to expect, right? So you need to make every massage, everything you can for them to be ready for. To give,
it's like a souffle, the slightest noise in the souffle.
Well, and it's interesting, on a show like yours, if you bomb, then without a doubt, that was me.
Yeah,
right. I suck.
I was telling, who's the old guy? Who's the old guy? I'd give it. Who's the old guy?
Which one?
Todd Grams. Todd Grams.
Todd, I love you.
Todd Grams was telling me how he had this joke.
Todd's hilarious,
and it worked. It worked every single time, and then it didn't work last night. And I said, if a joke didn't work, and that it's worked before, the first culprit is. I said, was the room set up right? He goes, what do you mean? He goes, was the room set up right? Was it, dark and just a spotlight and stage? He goes, no, they didn't have any of that. The first culprit is always the room. The room setup, the physical setup of the room.
Oh, I've done some terrible rooms.
Yeah. Well, so instead of wondering why the fuck didn't this joke work, I've said it 10 times in 10 different places. It always crushed. Why didn't it? The first culprit is always look at the setup of the room. That's how important the setup of the room is. Well, I mean, I probably went a little bit overboard, but
I will say, so we all met at Give a Hoot Comedy Club, and I don't know if you know the consensus in DC about Give a Hoot.
Well, I don't know. I don't go out into the scene. I have no idea.
But a lot of the DC comedians, especially the younger ones, are like, it's out in Gaithersburg. Like, I'm not going out there.
The same reason I got sick of going to Tyson's Corner, Virginia. You know, it's a schlep.
But I have always defended, and I'm like, as far as open mics go, that is really good room.
It's in the top 5 best open mics. It is,
and
absolutely.
That is how I know.
Because Irwin gets the production values thing. There's a stage. There's a spotlight. The noise from the kitchen, there's not much you can do about that. But he got everything else right, and the audience is right there 2 inches from the stage. So Irwin gets the production side of it. That's I would say Give a Hoot is the second best B room one night. It's not a one nighter, but it's the second best.
If I really want to know if a joke's working or not, I take it to Give a Hoot, and if it bombs, I'm like, we're probably done with that. You know, like we're probably done. Because that is always a fair audience there. Like they're always paying attention.
And the room is set up right.
You don't have to deal with hecklers much aside from like the fajitas that come out of the kitchen.
I mean, for me, that's where I started, right? So that's like a special room to me. You know, I feel when I'm on stage, I feel like, oh, this is my room. You know,
Remy always says he's tired of doing it. I'm like, that's where I get most of my work done. Is Give a Hoot.
Well, for me, I'm still Remy's been doing it enough where I feel like he's been doing it longer than me, where I'm still kind of in my early phases of kind of like really soaking my feet in the mud. You know what I mean? Kind of, and Give a Hoot to me is a place where I feel comfortable and I can get up there and I feel like this is where I can try. This is even if nights it's packed and nights it's not, but regardless, I feel.
But with the room. With the proper setup of the room, which it is, that could make a small crowd still be okay.
Exactly.
You know, if they didn't have a spotlight, if they didn't have that raised platform stage, if they didn't have the audience close to the stage, it would be miserable.
I'm going to think about, these things are real interesting because I'll think about them more kind of going forward, digesting a room, but also like other producers out there that might be listening, like these are valuable things you should.
Yeah, I would say half of the open mics have realized that, we got to make it look like Curt's room. That's why, like Capital Laughs and Underground Comedy, they get it. They have a spotlight. They have a real stage. They have blackout curtains, and their backdrop isn't visually cluttered. It's it's very plain, and they have they have it set up right.
Well, when you were looking for like a venue, did you like go tour a lot to like find like the perfect venue?
Not really, because I was so eager to get the next room started. So what little following of real audience we had, I wanted to make sure that they followed us, because I wasn't so worried about the room because I knew that I could transform any room into a comedy club. But my one thing I did realize painfully is you have to have a separate room. My first couple of rooms were in the open main area, and I was just a dumb kid. I didn't know. Of course, those will work. Half the people aren't paying attention. The other half are, they're kind of listening. There's fucking TV on. So the one thing I did learn is you have to have a separate room,
dedicated room,
room. Okay, not like Give a Hoot. That's a separate room. Okay, and as long as you have a separate room. And it has a floor and 4 walls and a ceiling. I can make that room feel like a comedy club, and without all my stuff, you wouldn't recognize it as a comedy club.
I would love to see what you could do with some of the open mics in DC.
All they have to do is see a video.
All they do is pay them $1 million bucks.
No, all I gotta do is watch a YouTube clip of a comic at Rock Bottom, and they'll see. Oh, wait a minute, everything is black except for the stage and the backdrop. Okay. I'll just copy that. It's not rocket science. What it is tedious manual labor. It takes a lot of time for me to, I get there at 2:00 and it takes all that time to set up the furniture, set up the curtains, put up all the signage. I get there at 2:00 and I'm done at 6:30. And then from 6:30 to 7, I sit in the back in the dark room, and I fucking almost cry because it's so overwhelming. The stress of it, and I'm an introverted person putting myself out there very publicly, and it's just fucking draining, and I fucking hate it. But then we have a great show, and I know the reason the show is great is the comics are funny, but half of it was because I got there at 2:00 and I transformed that naked room into a comedy club. And that's why the show was great.
Yeah.
If I didn't do all that shit, the show would be mediocre to good.
Yeah.
But
It's a
never great.
show.
But
And
never
Curt,
great.
and that is why we appreciate you. You know what I mean, for what you do for
Oh yeah.
what you've done for the whole scene past 20 years. You know what I mean, to continue to do. I mean, this is the applause we'll play. You want to do one of these? You know what I mean? The applause we'll play for that.
And just quickly, I want to say that the reason there's 300,000 open mics right now is because I am so picky about who I let on my shows that the comics that got sick of asking me to get on were like, fuck.
Talk that shit, Curt.
Fuck-
Massio,
fuck-
go today. He's
Fuck
starting to
L.
come
Ron
off the rails
Shackelford.
now.
Fuck L. Ron Shackelford. I'm going to go start my own show and I'll MC it. And I won't have to crawl to Mr. Potter. I won't have to crawl to him anymore. And that's, I swear to God, I'm not making this up. That's why the scene exploded, because all of these pissed off comics who I wouldn't let on my show went and started their own show.
Well, you said you're the most loved and the most hated. That's a gangsta ass tag right there.
You know what? I think I know a couple of people you're talking about.
and honestly, I was just joking with this with Owen Vacheron.
He's hilarious.
I was telling
He's
him
the
how, you know,
best.
I firmly believe, I'm not joking, that I will be assassinated by a disgruntled comic. That will be
fuck
my
that.
death.
We gonna
That
protect
will
you
be
at
my
all
death.
costs.
They're already unstable people. They're already unstable people. And now I'm denying you stage time at rock bottom.
No
that
convertibles.
That could be the one thing that pushes them over the edge.
That's so true. Yeah, absolutely.
So
I think I know
I'm
somebody.
not joking. I predict that I will be assassinated by a
Jesus
disgruntled
Christ.
comic.
Do you have a
by a disgruntled comic?
Do you have a specific guess? I have a couple ideas for who might kill you.
Well, they're all unstable.
We're
you
gonna
know?
we're just gonna make a board of running a running bracket.
And the reason I think I'm going to be assassinated by a disgruntled comic is
You almost said unfunny comics. That's what you said.
disgruntled,
Freudian
unfunny, disgruntled, unfunny. I mean, yeah, but for I would say for a lot of comics, grasping at stand-up comedy is their last chance at some shred of dignity in their life. They failed at relationships. They failed at their job.
Why are you like a black guy in church over there? Like a
Preach, brother. Preach, brother.
Yes, Lord.
Testify.
What is going on?
Wait.
Because these are some of the ideas I've had
This
about
is their
myself.
last grasp at some kind of dignity, you know? And no matter that they're not funny, they belong to this club now. They found a place where they belong, you know? And that's all we want to do. We want to belong. So
that's real.
So this is my last chance at some kind of dignity, and being a stand-up comic, even though I'm not good at it, it's become what they call it, my master status.
Right.
That's how. What do you do? Oh, I'm a comic. You know, it's your master status.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I'm denying you this stage time at rock bottom, you know, and your dignity that is all tied up in being a comic and getting on at rock bottom, because I'm so picky about who I let on at rock bottom. It's gotten this ridiculous lure, like it's some kind of Wizard of Oz, you know.
It's you.
You're the man in the green.
Yeah, I told you.
But they think it's going to be like the gateway to the next level of stand-up. It isn't.
Right.
The next level, the gateway is getting on at the DC Improv open mic.
Yeah.
That's, if you really want to talk about get on the DC Improv open mic, get noticed there, and then they'll have you MC at one of the paid shows, and then if you're good, maybe feature. The DC Improv is really where your focus should be.
Yeah.
If you're really like wanting that next level, go fucking harass Allison Jaffe at the DC Improv.
What's
Her email
interesting
address.
about what's interesting about being a comedian is when you first start, or at least for me, I was content just doing as many open mics as I could. You know, you do like Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday, and you're content just with the stage time. And then once you get going a little more and you notice some of the people that you started with, they're kind of getting on shows that you haven't been on. Then you start getting a little bit jealous.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where stand-up comedy to go kind of comes in, where a lot of the people that I Give a Hoot have done that show, some haven't, and they're like, well, I've been doing it just as long as this guy. So then they get upset about that.
Right.
I think that's where it comes in.
Length of experience level has nothing to do with charisma, stage presence, likability, charm, the star quality that that.
Well, it's your show, and like you said, if you want to go to the next level, go to the improv. If that's what you're looking at,
go try to get on the DC Improv.
But rock bottom is your curation,
Yeah, and it's really not the gateway to the next level. It's not the gateway to the next level of stand up. Again, the next step, if you're sick of doing open mics, you really want to go to the next level, try to get on the DC Improv open mic. It's a monthly show. You go to the website, dcimprov.com, and they tell you how to sign up. They send them a tape and everything. And if you get picked on it's not like an open mic where you just sign up and go up. You have to send them a tape, send them a tape, and if they like the tape, then you get on the monthly open mic. And then if you do well at the monthly open mic, then you get a chance to do a guest spot in the main room on a Friday or Saturday night. And then if you do well at the guest spot, you get to MC. And if you do well at the MC, then you get to feature. Right. Now, you probably never ever get to headline because they only use super famous people that are going to fill the seats. Yeah. Not Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle's too big, but
like somebody that tours the country.
Yeah, that's the path to
who's
it would be like Mark
David
Norman
Tell,
or something.
like David Tell. They would only use famous people.
Right.
Know?
Yeah.
Now, I have seen shows at the DC Improv where the feature act, who was a local guy, was funnier than the nationally famous headliner.
Did you used to book for the?
No. I used to go there just as a customer, and I'll never forget. I saw before I was even performing, just as a regular person, I saw a show at the DC Improv. The feature act was Matt Kazam, who is a local DC guy. He's been doing it about 30 years. He's out in Las Vegas now. Matt Kazam was the feature act, the middle guy. The headliner was Tom Rhodes, who is a relatively famous. He's almost a household name. So he was the headliner. So. Matt Kazam, the feature act, was way funnier, and I walked out into the merch area with the merch tables they have set up. The feature act, Matt Kazam, and the headliner table was here, and Matt's table was here, and I was just a dumb kid, and I said out loud to Matt Kazam, I said, "How come you were funnier than the man?" I swear to God, how come you were funnier than the headliner? And the headliner was right there, and I didn't notice. And the headliner was like, and Matt Kazam was like, "You fucking idiot." He was like, "Thank you, but you fucking idiot. Are you retarded? Are you retarded? I noticed you have brown skin. Are you retarded?"
The headliner's going to be pissed at the feature.
Oh yeah, that's how it goes.
That's a lot. That's something I didn't know about. Sometimes, if you're really funny but you're not famous, they won't let you feature because you're going to upstage the headliner, just like Matt Kazam did with that.
That reminds me. My uncle told me this story where he was like in San Francisco on business or something, and he's like, "Just to go to a comedy show," and the headliner was Kevin Nealon, and the feature.
Yeah, he's funny.
He's funny, very funny. But I think this was a time where he was not doing a lot of stand up. Like maybe
Kevin Nealon.
Yeah,
Kevin Nealon's a little bit. Kind of a writery kind of funny guy.
He might have been on SNL, and when you're on SNL, you don't do much stand-up.
Yeah, but he sold tickets because of the name recognition.
But the feature was Brian Regan, young Brian, and he said Brian Regan just murdered.
Absolutely, and absolutely. Brian Regan is my favorite comic. He's my favorite comic, and it has nothing to do with the stuff that comes out of his mouth. You watch Brian Regan walk and move around stage. I watch him without the sound. I'm fucking laughing my ass off. The way that guy moves, he happens to be a brilliant writer too. Yeah. But I just love the way he moves, Right.
He's got a little Jim Carrey about him a little bit. Yeah.
And his face, he's got the perfect face. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, the feature act sometimes will upstage the headliner. Yeah. So the DC Improv won't book you if you're too funny of a feature because you'll upstage the headliner.
Interesting. Yeah, that's so true.
God damn, Curt, I feel like we got a lot of good gems from you today, man.
This was great.
I gotta think. Did I badmouth anybody that I'm gonna run into?
No.
Did I specifically badmouth anybody?
No, I don't.
You said
not specifically.
You said no names.
Yeah.
Only Eric Myers, and you bigged him up.
Yeah.
And you said Laura was funny. So
you said Laura was funny. She's
charismatic.
The only names you gave props to, so we were good.
Well, I didn't encourage anybody.
Even if he did, we would go through that, right?
You guys edited it out?
No, but we can if you want.
No,
We-
I don't think
No,
we
there's
can.
nothing.
I
There's
didn't
nothing.
say anything. I don't want to be assassinated this week. Did I mention anybody in
I
particular?
will avenge you. If anyone,
I said some shit on the back porch during the smoking break.
You know what? When we
No,
were
I didn't mention
Sam's
any names.
wired.
I didn't mention any names.
We wired Sam. No,
Yeah.
no, we appreciate you, Kurt. To be honest, this means a lot. This is
This is
important
great.
episode because
Thanks.
we never get to sit down with you and really get to find.
This won't be of any interest to
at
anyone
open
outside the
mics-
comedy
at
world.
open mics, you don't talk to any of us
Because I'm trying to fucking
I
avoid
know,
people.
I'm not
that
saying
don't-
it's a bad thing. So to get to talk to you and learn more was amazing. You
Yeah.
did great.
This is
Fucking
awesome.
hilarious.
Thanks,
You are
thanks.
great.
I gotta pee
Sam,
really bad. I gotta pee
thank
really
you for
bad.
coming. Go ahead and pee.
And then can I have a smoke break out
Yeah,
back and
we'll
then
go
I'll go?
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All right.
Kurt.
Thank you, Curtis.
Check out Did You Order on Instagram.
Did you order
Did You Order?
stand up comedy to go?
You combine
yeah.
both of
Go ahead,
them?
you do it.
No, add did you order? And then you're good, Kurt. Go ahead. You're good. You're good.
I want to make sure it gets the name right. Because people fuck it up all the
All
time. They're like, yeah, you run that comedy called Jokes on the Go.
Okay, stand up comedy to go.
StandUpComedyToGo.com.
StandUpComedyToGo.com.